What do you do when you find yourself saying, I just don't feel like it? Do you push yourself forward and make it happen? Or do you give yourself a break? And when you give yourself a break, are you just resisting what you need to do? Or is it what is best for you? Or if you're pushing yourself, are you pushing yourself to exhaustion? It's hard to know based on the ego pressures. And today is all about how to dance between shifting your state and moving into flow. So join me so you can learn how to navigate life with greater ease.
Welcome to the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, a place for the strong, sensitive, spiritual seeker to recognize the perfection of your human journey as emotional and spiritual worlds through proven and grounded frameworks that support you to live in the wholeness you already are. For over the past 2 decades, I have supported people from all around the world, as well as Fortune 500 companies, to dissolve the divisions within them and live with greater empowerment and love. This podcast is an exploration of the paradoxes that befuddle us as we live our lives being both human and divine. Together, you and I, along with other experts, will navigate integrating psychology and spirituality, the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the darkness and the light, to create greater sacred union from within. I believe through your remembering that you are innately divine, that you will allow yourself to more openly shine. So let's get to it, because your unique light is needed more than ever.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, where today we are talking about how to address that sense of, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like taking responsibility, or all the things that we just don't feel like doing, and how we can navigate this as a dance between a flow state and really a state in where we are shifting, purposefully shifting our emotional state so that we can more feel like it. Okay. And so today is about finding that middle ground between state and flow. And so I want to share this with you because I have struggled so much in my life with this, with knowing when do I need to push myself and make things happen? And when do I need to take a step back? Because the ego can be very tricky. The ego can make you want to take a step back when you really need to show up for your dreams, your desires, for change. Or your ego can step in and fight you when you really need to take a step back, because doing so will not just provide you with rest and restoration, but clarity, wisdom about how to do things differently. And so it can be really tough to know when to use that pushing energy, which is this masculine solar force energy that we all have within us, regardless of our gender, or that resting, silence, gathering insight, which is a feminine strength, wisdom of the lunar forces that we also each have, regardless of our gender. And so both of these are strengths that we've been given to us. And it's up to each of us to find balance. And this is so freaking important, to know how to dance between state and flow, between masculine and feminine energies, because otherwise you're going to find yourself with burnout, exhaustion, and really remaining stuck, because you're forcing, it's pushing you, but it's in the wrong direction. It's in a direction that is not giving you the results that you want. And you lose pleasure then in your life. The joy of life just seems to be sucked out of you. And you've got this beautiful life that you've been given to amplify and expand the energy that you are. And when we're not finding this dance between state and flow, between masculine and feminine, life feels like a constant struggle. And I don't want that for you. I don't want you to struggle with this. And I want you to have clarity about what really is the best next step for you and how we can navigate this. Because my go to, like many of us in this society, is to overly push myself. And it's our infatuation as a society with productivity at all costs. And certainly this is the unhealthy portion of it, is that it's at all costs, right? So when you or I do this, of course, we're going to feel tired. We're going to want to break. But you delay giving yourself a break because the ego is constantly gnawing at you in your head that there's more to get done, more for you to do. So, how are we supposed to navigate this in a way that we can honor ourselves, that we know what to do for ourselves when we feel this push pull, and we can know when it's time to rest and recharge versus, no, I got to jump in and take action to change my emotional state because I'm the one who's responsible for my emotional state, so that I can do the things that need to get done. So according to Tony Robbins, which is some person that I think holds a lot of wisdom, the quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. The quality of your life is the quality of your emotions. And he also believes that 80% of your outcomes are based on whether your emotions, your psychology are working for you or against you. And then the other 20% is strategy. So 80% is all about your emotions. So whatever the outcome you desire, 80% of that is your psychology. Like, it's pretty fascinating because I think with our society so honed in on productivity, we think strategy, but it's really understanding that your psychology is either working for you or against you. And what I found is that even though we need our psychology working for us, our tendency is to put it on the back burner. It's like, yeah, that internal emotional stuff that, that I can deal with later. And there's a couple of reasons why we do this. And again, how to find that right balance from within. So you're thriving both inside yourself and then outside in your life, because we need both. We want both. We all know the people that are thriving on the outside. So it seems they have the success, the outcomes, the productivity, but internally they're at a zero. They're just so lost, deflated, struggling, or where someone may be feeling really good on the inside, but they're not able to produce the outcomes on the outside and the world that they want to be able to have an impact. They want to be able to share it with the external and have those outcomes in their lives. So both are so important. So where I'm going to invite us to begin is to examine our need to be productive and what this is really about. So again, we want to express ourselves in the world in a way where our natural gifts can be of service. But where does this turn into an obsession where productivity is believing that your identity is based on what you produce, right? Like, this is where it gets unhealthy. This is where it becomes an obsession. And I have been there. I have absolutely been there. And we do this to ourselves when we believe our identity is tied to titles, how much money we make, perhaps like social media influence, all these things that have nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with your true essence. Because your true essence, your truest self, is that regardless of what is happening or isn't happening in the external world. And so your identity, when your identity is about how much you produce and outcomes, it takes over your life. That productivity, those outcomes, the external evidence takes over your life. And when this happens, you have lost connection with yourself. And when you lose connection with yourself and your true identity, you're not going to be happy. And so let's take a step back with this, because isn't this why we go to working so hard to produce? Because we think that whatever we produce and the outcome it's going to give us is going to make us happy. But when the scales tip and we are coming from this producing place where it's not from a sense of fulfillment, it's not about expression of yourself, but it's about proving your innate worth, you are guaranteeing that your productivity is going to make you unhappier when your outcomes are about proving your innate worth. When you're so focused that this thing needs to happen because that's the key to you feeling good, to all your sorrows going away, to you being enough, you are guaranteeing that you are going to make yourself unhappier, that all your efforts will make you unhappier. And so clearly, we need to be able to navigate this dance, because the whole point is that we want our actions to come from us in this place of love and expansion that feels good to us from both the inside and the outside. We have both for a reason, just like we have both the masculine and feminine for a reason. So this is not me telling you to go to extremes. This is not about me telling you to do nothing the rest of your life, because that's not going to be fun for you. I know that after overworking, it may sound like that's the best thing for you. It might be momentarily, right? Both doing nothing and overworking can actually be states that we thrive in if they're used sparingly. So if you've ever been into something like so deeply that you're passionate about and there's a deadline and you pull all of your mind, body, spirit, and emotion into it and show up and give it your all, and you have to be constantly on, we can do that for short stints, once or twice a year, and it actually feels good. But if that's your constant state, that's not going to work for anyone. It's the same with doing nothing. Nothing can be exactly what your mind, body, spirit, and emotion need to relieve stress, to stop overthinking. But you don't want to stay there either, because this is where you can find yourself lingering in this place of nothingness out of your own fear, of your fear of being in the game of life. And then you miss out. Then you start feeling stuck because you aren't here for your human experience, which is all about supporting you to grow. And so you've just contracted yourself in a state of nothingness. So yes, there's times for both extremes very sparingly. The other 95% of the time, you want to be navigating to find the middle ground or harmony between doing and non-doing states, between feminine and masculine energies, by coming back to your natural flow state, which is a combination of all of these. And so it's really interesting. And you can tell me, you can write in and let me know if your ego does the same thing that mine does. But my ego will fight me so hard when I know I need to give myself more space in my feminine energy. It fights me to go towards a more flow state. It tells me that doing this, intending to my soul, is like a waste of time, because we haven't been taught that feeding our soul is not only necessary for our happiness, but also for our productivity. So I've got a few pieces of research here to help our minds be able to soothe ourselves the next time the ego wants to step in and say, what are you doing? We don't have time for nourishing our soul. That's all fluffy stuff. Well, the flow states that happen when we allow ourselves this balance between the feminine and the masculine, it creates an increase in productivity by 5 times the amount. So this study by McKinsey and Company found that executives who regularly entered flow states are 5 times more productive than those who do not. There's a 500% increase in learning speed, that you can learn up to 500% faster than normal when people go into a flow state. You have a creativity boost of 400 to 700%. This is from the Harvard Business Review. So it allows for us to get into creative problem solving, where again, that ego, that push is like just like a bull in a china shop, right? And it's not going to give you the outcome you want, even though it feels more productive pushing. A study by the University of Sydney said there's 15% more work completed when we're in a flow state because we're less distracted. And we have 3 times more work satisfaction. I would guess it would be a lot more than that, but this is a study by the University of Chicago that employees who can get into a flow state regularly are going to be 3 times more satisfied with their work. And of course, the it came in with a study showing that flow state is going to reduce stress and anxiety because you're not trying to control everything, you're not pushing, you're not forcing, and we get into more of our natural states, which feel better for us, allow us to have deeper engagement with our work and our intrinsic motivation. So let's talk about how we get into flow, because in the past, you would have been given more instructions on how to be more productive to get into the flow state, which leans more on masculine energy traits to create flow states. Now, this can happen. These are important to know when to use. They're great for when you have a real deadline. And I say real deadline rather than one made up by our ego that says you've got to do all of this, in your head. It's telling you that you have to do this. When you've got a real deadline and you're just not feeling it and you don't feel like doing anything, this is when you can tap into some of these masculine energy traits and work with them to help them work with you. So these are things that you can, and I call this more about changing your emotional state. And the biggest one is moving your body. So number 1, move your body, because that's going to get things out of your mind so that you aren't living in the problem, like your mind stays in the problem. So for me, like a minimum of 15 minutes in the morning is necessary for me just to get myself moving, like moving how I want to move with a sense of clarity in my head. And so I just learned that that's what I need to move my energy. You're feeling stuck. I don't want to do something. Move your body. The other thing that we can train ourselves to do is to do the hard thing. Do the hard thing. There's something that you're avoiding. Just go to it. And how I do this and I navigate this within myself is I say, you know what? I'm going to give myself 20 to 30 minutes on this task that I don't feel like doing. I'm not inspired to do, but I have a deadline on. And if I'm still not into it, I'll move on. A vast majority of the time, there's a fear there that I wasn't aware of. And by going into it for 20 to 30 minutes, I work through the fear by taking action in opposition of what the fear is telling me to do. And I'm stepping into my power, and then it starts to go into a flow state. So I shift from that resistance to flow because I'm facing the fear. There's also something that I love called a minute to win it. I think there's those games on like YouTube that you have this minute to win it, little games that you can do. I do this with things in life that take less than a minute for me to do and just do it. So a minute, you can take care of a lot of little things so that they don't add up and become overwhelming. So you can put away or throw out papers, food, hang up clothes, wash a dish, and get done with it so you can move on from it. So it's not like clutter going on in your mind. So it's just a habit that a minute to win it with anything that's in my house, bothering me, in my office space, to really move and free the clutter so that I can have more of a state where I'm like seeing, hey, I got that done, and I can get the other things done that need to get done. And then I also love Tony Robbins priming. And I can share a link with this in the show notes. I love this because it's about moving your body, moving your emotion. It uses breath and gratitude, and it's a beautiful practice. So I will share that because it can help you, again, when there's a deadline, things for you to get done. Now, here's why you can't go to changing your state all of the time using just these kind of masculine energies to I want to say force your emotions into a state that's more productive. There's a big caveat here. If you overuse these, you keep on pushing to stay productive, to do more, and you're either going to burn yourself out or you deplete your psychology. And then your psychology starts working against you because there's an inner wisdom that's happening through your emotions that you're pushing past. So again, deadline, you need to be able to change that state. Great. But you're basically saying, my mind knows better than my emotional self. My mind knows that productivity is better than the inner wisdom that comes through my emotional self. And when we do that, we are in an ego state that is going to make, again, your emotions suffer, your physical self suffer, your relationship suffers. People that overdo this, I promise you, it comes back to bite them in the end. So yes, use those techniques sparingly. Use them when you need to. And then my invitation for you is to learn to integrate feminine approaches to flow states. The feminine approach to flow is about emptying ourselves of ego. And this is a lot more challenging to do. It's about emptying ourselves of our ego mind so that you are attuned to your inner wisdom, your inner guidance, your divine connection, your creativity, your soul solutions, your solutions that come from the soul that your mind could not have come up with on its own. So this is a skill and a practice. Ways of to empty yourself of your ego is about surrendering your ego. So if your soul is malnourished, you will find yourself collapsing into nothingness, and that's okay. Give yourself the space to restore internally, right? You may even hear your inner dialogue say things like, I can't keep going like this anymore. When you hear that, that is your inner wisdom saying, I can't keep going the way I have been doing things. And the way I've been doing things has been based on my ego or has been too much of an overuse of my masculine energies. And I need to find balance because I'm not getting the desired outcome that I want if I'm unhappy, or I'm just not getting the outcomes. And so we really need to be going into this place of away from having to push ourselves, force ourselves, versus allowing ourselves flow. So yes, rest is an important component. And once you have given yourself that physical and mental break, you want to think about nourishing your soul. And so there's a difference. So really what you are being called to do is to create a discipline within your week and within your days to honor your flow. It's a discipline that isn't coming from force, but a higher level of self-love, that you show up for yourself in high quality ways that allows you to empty yourself of the ego as much as possible. So think about surrendering as less about giving up, but giving into your soul's desire for nourishment. I mean, how good does that sound? Giving yourself over to an activity that delights your soul. So maybe you do this with painting. I love to paint, but my ego will fight me on it. And it's not about perfection. It's about a way that our souls can express themselves and communicate with us. And I always find through my paintings, there's some sort of communication, some message that I was meant to receive from it. Of course, a common practice is through meditation and visualization practices where you're connecting back to your soul, your essence, your breath, your highest self, making room for you, your higher self's insight, wisdom. There's, of course, just taking walks in nature, doing it without technology so you're not distracted, so you can be attuned to yourself. talking to your plants, the trees, the flowers, the animals, plants, and socializing with fun, by having fun with friends and family. So we want to keep a variety of ways to fuel your soul rather than, overly rely on one. It's just like our bodies, you don't eat the same thing. You want a variety of foods to nourish your body and make sure that they're healthy so that you're giving your body different vitamins, proteins, etc. So we do this for ourselves. We give ourselves different layers of love and soul nourishment. And by giving yourself this, we are doing this for ourselves, for the love of ourselves, and to rewire the programming that tells you that your soul's nourishment is something that is nice to do and that we can put on the back burner because it's last on the list. No, we want to rewire this, and we can rewire this through habitual action that, again, is a discipline from a higher level, a higher quality of self-love that says, I am going to give myself this emptying of my ego daily. And it can take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to remember you're not your outcomes, you're not your productivity. And then weekly, give yourself a longer practice to empty yourself of your ego. So what I'll say is, you and I both know there's always things on your to-do list. And my invitation for you is to learn to have dominion over your life, because it's your life, and have it from a place of your truth, your essence, rather than your ego. And we do this by finding the path of the middle way, which is this dance of wisdom between our masculine and feminine energies that knows when to lean into one energy versus another. And what I have found personally, and for those who have also learned to incorporate the feminine aspect, is that this is when breakthroughs abound, because this part of us in our society has been neglected, unseen, not understood. So this is often where we need to discipline ourselves, that it is safe to give ourselves over to what our ego would describe as unproductive, and really understand the truth of what it offers us. Nourishing yourself in this way is like pouring love upon yourself by knowing your innate worth enough to take this time for the sacred part of you. So my invitation for you is to fuel your feminine energies this week through surrendering your ego's need to push and produce. When you find yourself doing that, you can give yourself a 5-minute invitation to instead fuel yourself in healthy, nourishing ways. And then, without expectation, but just observance, notice how you feel about yourself, your life, your family, your work, with curiosity. Be open to where this guidance is taking you, because it just may be the shortcut to the outcomes that you have been desiring for so long. Then you'll learn to dance with life rather than fight it. So I hope this episode has supported you. Please share it with those that you know who are pushers and trying to constantly force themselves, and give them the opportunity to learn how to surrender their ego and empty themselves with their divine feminine nourishment in balance with their divine masculine energies. Until next time, know that you are divine perfection and there is nothing to fix, just to remember. Take care.
I am so honored you have joined me today. If you enjoyed the I'm Perfectly Divine podcast, subscribe so you don't miss any of our power-filled episodes. Also, if you know another who is strong, sensitive, and spiritual, and wants to dive deeper into emotions and ancient wisdom so they too can create profound peace and fulfillment from within, please share this podcast. Thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to reconnecting with you soon.